Hello everyone, it's me Melissa and we're back inside of the ranting shop. We're here to review season 8 and episode 8 I believe of Ready to Love. In this episode, Tommy had the women allow their best friends to meet their potentials. And in my opinion, watching this episode, I felt as if it was a waste of time. Simply because I don't think any of them are serious, especially the men. And I don't see any connections. It's very disappointing to see how much of a flop this season is. I really and truly just want to get straight to the reunion. I don't want to see any more. Because I'm not going to be watching it for any romance. I'm going to watch it for pure mess. But anyways, so let's skip to the very ending where Herbert was sent home, which shocked me a bit because I saw him staying a bit longer. But he got eliminated, and based on all the women's perceptions of him and what we saw from the TV screen, he wasn't ready. He certainly wasn't ready at the pace that the show wants them to be ready, which is almost instant. Like the contestants describe it as dating on crack or speed dating on crack or something of that sort. So it's really baffling to know that Herbert coming into this process and knowing that this is a fast-paced thing and you get to know each other quickly and you figure out quickly is that person for you or not. You do all of that quickly, right? It's not something you could stretch unless the person is willing to stretch with you. Right? But if the other party, and as I said before, most of the women are not going to want to wait anything out. Neither would they want to be at any slow pace, because the pressure of the show makes you want the connection to happen quickly. So that was his downfall, thinking he could go slow in a fast-paced environment. And I more or less feel as if Herbert's person wasn't there, because if they were, he would show a bit more care in how he communicated his process with the women that he claimed to be interested in. But I didn't see any of that. And so with that, I guess it was the right choice, but I don't, to be honest, I don't think any of the men are good choices. And you know, other people say, oh, these men are just talking, they're just talking. And I never understood it until this episode. And now I really understand these men are just talking, just running game, just trying to be the one with the better answers so they could be favorable in their interests' eyes. And to me, it just didn't come across as authentic, genuine interest. It just came across as, I want to come across a particular way to your friends that makes me look favorable. And that's all I saw. Let's go in no particular order and talk about the date with, let's do Chris, Jessica, and Maury. She had them meet two of her friends. And Chris came across to me like he was already over it. By that time, him and Jessica, in my opinion, decided to call it quits. Because she clearly states that there were some things that she wasn't quite feeling about Chris. And that is what led her to want them to go their separate ways. On this date, we saw Chris not even trying to impress her friends. I feel like he was trying to be honest, but at the end of the day, he was still trying to come across likable. And I feel like it came across as him being fake, as we could have seen he was trying to portray this amazing individual with perfect answers for everything, but he just couldn't lie. Him and Jessica are not compatible. He wants a mom-like figure. He wants a soft woman. He wants a woman that more so like a traditional wife type, but I don't know if he wants a wife, but he wants a traditional wife type. And Jessica does not seem that way to me. I feel like she would be that way for a guy that presents himself as masculine. I think it would be natural for her to go into her feminine energy, which I spoke of before when everybody was praising Chris for basically telling Jessica to talk to him nicely in a grown-up way. Everybody was praising him for this, and I saw it more so as they're simply not compatible, because Chris wants somebody to kind of be at his beck and call, and Jessica is just absolutely not about to do any of that. So there's that. She's gonna continue to be strong because, I mean, you're not presenting an energy that makes her want to not be strong. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. All of his answers were terrible. They asked him if he saw Jessica as a wife or wife material. The short answer is no, he does not, because to him wife material is a subservient woman who is there for him and is there to do what his mom is now unable to do for him, which is cater to him and care for him. So he struggled with that answer, and he just obviously didn't come across very good to the friends. And then we have Maurier talking about how he actually likes the fact that Jessica is strong. But to be honest with you, I don't see it with Maurier and Jessica either. These are not the type of men I think Jessica wants. Neither is it the type of man that I believe is gonna have a long, successful partnership with Jessica, just because they're just incompatible in different ways. You know, they don't possess that type of alpha energy that I think Jessica probably needs, you know, because she's not willing to back down and soften anything. So she's gonna need you to be strong and appreciate that about her, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. And then, so that's a flop. Then we go to, let's talk about Janelle, her friends, and Quinton. It was and Herbert, Quinton and Herbert. So Herbert gives her a gift, but in the bigger scheme of things, Janelle knows that Herbert is a good time and a good time only, and he's not at a time or space where he wants to do what she wants to do at the pace that she wants to do it at. It's so crazy to me how Janelle is on this show, let's say the beginning of this year, but she wants to be married at the end of the same year. That sounds insane to me. I feel like things like that you don't speak on. If you meet the person and that's how things happen, then that's how things happen. You explain it in hindsight that we met in January, got married in December, right? But if you're getting to know somebody, for you to give that crazy timeline, I just feel like it's very unrealistic to me, because the chances of finding that person on this show is slim to none. So Herbert was like, she's moving way too fast for me. Furthermore, I need her to have patience, because I'm not about to rush no process for any show. And there's something about the authenticity of Herbert which I cannot complain about. He's being honest and he's saying, this is what it is for me. I'm not about to sugarcoat this to win this show. This is what it is for me. You either get with it or you move on. And she's very aware of that. She got the message. She understood it. And she decided that Herbert was not the person that she was going to continue with. Like, you could tell. At that point, it was just not gonna work. And Quinton is over here, tall, buff, attractive. Of course, their friend is, I'm pretty sure, attracted to Quinton. And I noticed that with these friends, when they meet Quinton, it's like they want to ask hard questions. Then when he shows up, it's like, let's be easy on him because he looks so good. Which is why it's important for these women to have male friends, because men are not gonna be enamored with a man's looks. They're gonna get down to business and ask the questions that need to be asked. In most cases. So Quinton is there giving storybook answers, talking about he wants to be married tomorrow, and basically he's saying that, you know, he's matching Janelle's timeline, essentially. And of course, that's all you need to really say to a woman for her to be like, you're the one. But to be honest, I didn't get genuine from Quinton. I got completely fake and staged, and saying things for the look of it, saying things for the appearance of it, but not really genuinely meaning what he's saying. Yeah, it's too textbook. If I were Janelle, I wouldn't pick any of these guys, honestly. And I just don't know, if Janelle picks him, it's not gonna go very far, honestly. I just don't see it being the case. And he's talking about, oh, you know, Hubert is calling her a thug and liking that. And Quinton is saying, yeah, she might be too much for some people, but she's okay for me. And that sounds amazing. Until you get a whole lot of the too much, and then it becomes too much. You know, what I mean by that is simply, it's easy to say the things that you'll be able to tolerate when you're trying to impress somebody's friends. But then when the going gets tough behind closed doors, and that person continues to be that force that you thought you could handle, it then becomes overwhelming. You know, all of that thugness that you thought you'd be able to take on, you'd soon realize that you're only able to take it on for a short space of time. And after 6 months, it's too much for me. You know, so I feel like Quinton is just all talk. Either way, to no surprise to any of us, the friend was more interested in Quinton and what he had to say. I mean, clearly, he was saying everything that makes or gets a woman excited. Not afraid to propose, not afraid to get married tomorrow. I could handle her, blah, 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 blah. So here we are. So Quinton is the winner of that. Then we have, let's talk about Katarina's situation with Philip and Hubert. And I feel like Katarina doesn't have a real strong connection with either one of these men. She's in a very tough spot because she came in late. And so when other people have formed stronger bonds, she's just now trying to cash up. And she said it on the live with her and Aries, with Lee and Aries, that yeah, they were playing a game of catch up as, what do you call these people? Wildcards. So it's not a very advantageous position to be placed in. So Philip, he comes in first, and they do this cute thing about she's Ali and I'm Cat and we're Ali Cat. And he was so not feeling it. He was like, okay. Then they're talking, and I really don't know the ins and outs of that date, but the conclusion that I came to was, she said in the women's lounge, Philip is just not for her. He's just not the person for her. And Herbert, she doesn't really she doesn't really care too much for Herbert either. And she's thinking maybe this is just a physical thing, but beyond that, like, there's nothing else, you know. So of course the friend was being really tough, asking Herbert questions, and Herbert doesn't strike me as somebody to back down. So he's like, well, if you're asking me stuff, about why I'm single and why I'm this and I'm that, I'm gonna ask you about Katerina. Why is Katerina single? Why is she, you know, what's her problem? Like, what's the issue with her? And her friend is like, oh, she's just looking for somebody. She hasn't met somebody on her level and stuff like that. And either way it goes, I don't feel like that friend was the best person to vet these men. Like, I feel like, I don't know, it wasn't giving. So at the end of it all, neither of the men really won. But I guess if they had to choose between the both of them, I guess, I don't know. To me, their friend didn't choose any one of them as the one they'd choose for Katerina. Because none of them is for Katerina. And that's the thing about these shows. Like, they have particular people, and these people may not mix with the other people. And so you have males and females that don't mix. It doesn't play out well for a show. It looks horrible for a show. A show that is predicated on finding love. It's just very disheartening. I don't know how else to say it. Alright. Let's do Miss Lee and her friend. What's her friend's name? Muffin. They were meeting Herbert. Sorry, not Herbert. Quentin. Well, it's weird because Lee said also Herbert was her connection. So I'm confused that only Quentin was here. But anyways. So that date happened. The friend was so infatuated with Quentin that she didn't ask any good questions that would give Lee any insight on Quentin. Quentin didn't have to do much. He did the bare minimum, and the friend was like, that's it, that's the one. Which kind of irritated me because it's like, Lee brought you here for you to do a job, right? She brought you here so that you could vet this guy for her. But you ended up taking that opportunity, wasting it for what? Because he looked good? That's crazy. So Lee was also disappointed in her friend. She's like, I wanted to get some insight, but my friend was so smitten with this man's physical appearance that she didn't see nothing else, which is unfortunate. But to me, I also feel like on this particular date, Lee didn't look too much interested in Quentin at that point. I feel like she was already checked out, and I feel like the way Quentin was acting, his body language, he seemed checked out on Lee as well. It's like, if I do have to have a second choice, it would be Lee, but my one and only choice is Janelle, right? We could see the different energies. We saw how Quentin was with Janelle's situation, Janelle's date, and we see how Quentin was with Lee's date. Like, everybody, even without eyes to see, you could hear that both of them were checked out. So the friend talking about whatever she's talking about sounds delusional, because it's like, were you just too busy looking at Quentin, or were you really looking at the vibe between Lee and Quentin? Because actually there was no connection anywhere there. Like, it was gone. Whatever connection they had in the beginning, at that point it was over with. And in the live that Lee, Katerina, and Aries did, Lee mentions the fact that the reason why, she came across the way she did on that friend's date was because just prior to that friend's date was when Quentin made the statement that he ghosted Lee. And as someone says, Lee has a big ego, and she couldn't handle the fact that Quentin was calling her out and making her seem less than in front of another woman. And I noticed that a bit, I do, because on a lot of Lee's lives, she states so she's fine, she has no problem getting a man, which I do believe it, and I do understand her need to clarify that to people who may feel contrary, because the show does make Janelle seem like the girl everybody wants. And yeah, people were saying it's about Lee in the beginning, but then it's like it's more so Janelle. So she wanted it to be known that, hello, they were also on my case as well. I was also their number ones as well. So don't get that twisted. Which, if you need to clarify, do so, right? But that was a feel. Quinton doesn't feel the need to want to impress Lee, and he didn't try to do much, and he wanted to learn more about Lee, didn't learn anything. The friend didn't give no insight into how Lee really is, what Lee's personality really is like. But actually, outside of the show, you see a lot of Lee's personality, like in the live that they were just in a couple of hours ago. You see Lee's personality, but on this show it was giving very much bland, right? And Lee was saying like the editing is making her look a particular way that she's not, especially on the Christopher date, when she kept saying there's levels to this, right? She said production made her keep saying it's levels to this, and she said even after the date, Christopher was still very much interested in her. So that's fine. I'm missing one more. I think it's a date with Aries. Did I know the date with Aries and Sierra? But let's pick on Aries first. Aries had the women, her friends, meet Philip and Chris. And the thing with Philip is, I feel like Philip wasn't trying to be fake. He wasn't trying to present himself in a particular way. It's similar to how Herbert was on his date with Janelle. He wasn't trying to impress her friends. He was simply trying to say, and I feel like what it is as well is, when you have a genuine connection with somebody, there's no need for you to do too much to impress the friends. The connection is there and it's very strong, and there's no need to prove that it's strong to people. They will see it, you know. But with Chris, because that connection is not there with Aries, it's like he had to prove himself to her friends. And of course, he won. I don't think winning over the friends means you win anything. You win the friend, but that doesn't necessarily mean you win the interest of the person you want, you know. So between Philip and Chris, because Chris gave more structured answers, Chris was more like better with his responses, the friends gravitated more toward Chris. Aries was a little bit shook because she's interested in Philip. That's why she was shook, because she's more interested in Philip, but her friends see more of a connection with Chris and her long term. Philip wasn't bothered about anything because he knows where he is with Aries. So to him, he feels like, yeah, they may say Chris, but at the end of the day, the connection is here with me, not Chris. So as much as Chris and Aries look good on paper, do they have that chemistry? I don't see it. And I feel like Philip knows that as much as Chris can talk a good game, the connection is not there, period. So he wasn't threatened. So we have that. Let's move over to our last but not least date, okay? And that was with Sierra. Sierra brings in, I believe, Herbert and Maury. I don't know how I went from Maury being this teddy bear to now he irritates me. I really don't know where it's coming from. I guess it's more so like the asking about the sexual thing that really irritates me about him, because it's like that's something you speak to the women about when they call you in private. It's not something you ask your ex to ask your. That really rubbed me the wrong way. And I more so see it as, you know what, because everyone is talking about this alliance that Jessica, Janelle, and Maury has, and I see it. And maybe even Quinton is in it as well. Because the reason why I say I see it is because there's literally no connection with Maury and any of these women, but yet still he's still on the show, right? So that's baffling. Like, why? Okay, so anyways, the date happened. Sierra and Maury are friends, and that's what they presented as. That's what we saw. There's literally nothing romantic there. And as somebody pointed out, they brought Janelle gifts. Like, Hubert brought Janelle a gift because of course he's trying to impress her a bit, and Maury brought somebody else, is it Jessica, a gift. It was the candle because he's trying to right his wrong, like he keeps on saying, which is crazy to me because how can you right your wrong? Like, you believe in something Jessica doesn't believe in. Like, what? How could you write that? There's no way to write that. It is what it is, right? It will just never work either way, you know. And so he keeps saying it, and it's irritating me. Just say, I'm apologizing for not having that conversation beforehand. But he sounds like he's apologizing because he is not a Christian like Janelle and Jessica is, which it sounds crazy. Anyways, Sierra doesn't get any gift from either one of these men. They both give, Sierra is my friend, home girl, or she's my sneaky link. I'm getting sneaky link vibes, I'm getting home girl vibes, but I'm not getting anything serious. So it's like Hubert says, he wants to have fun on his way to the altar. And that's really weird because it's like the fun would be had, but I highly doubt it should amount to any altar. You know, that's the thing about Hubert. I don't think he's intentional about marrying. He's intentional about having fun, but he's not intentional about marrying. That's the thing with him. He's slow, but he's not slow to have intimate relations, and that's the thing. Maury to me strikes me similarly as Hubert, but he tries to like nice it up with, I'm very serious and I'm very intentional and da 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 da. But either way it goes, like, none of these men are right for Sierra. She knows it, they know it, and it is what it is. Like, Maria could say whatever he wants to say. He knows that Sierra is his friend, and that's where it ends, period. And I would think she'd know that too, but we'll talk about that later. Either way it goes, that date was a flop because it's like there's no interest there anyway. So it's like their friends are there, but like they really don't really serve a purpose because there's no connection with any of these guys, period. So women's lounge approach, and the women feel as if Hubert was just not serious. Like, he's not what we want, and he gets sent home. Well, Chris was also in the bottom as well, and it's like, yeah, because with Chris, and I noticed how Janelle was like speaking up for Jessica because she knows that's Jessica's connection, so she's like speaking up in opposition of Chris. He's like, yeah, he argues a lot, he's always angry, yeah. And it's like, okay, so you know, you definitely see Janelle has Jessica's back and vice versa. So if you don't like him, I'm gonna say I don't like him, so he could be sent home. That's what I see. So either way it goes, this was the episode. I didn't plan to stay here so long. Oh my gosh. Next episode, they're going to our favorite spot. They're going to this building where they all are gonna reside and get to know each other a bit more. We see that there's gonna be some issues with Katarina and Janelle. Katarina feels as if Janelle is not giving Quinton any room to talk with the other women, and I completely understand why. And we see that Sierra is getting extra clingy to Maury, and as I said, we see why, because I know for Janelle, she eliminated her other connection, so she really only has Quinton. So of course the focus is now only on Quinton, you know. And then Quinton has both of his connections in the house. He has Lee and he has Janelle, so he's in a power position there. And then we have Maury has his connection there. Jessica has always been his number one connection, but he's in a power position because Sierra and Jessica are like has him as their connection. Do I feel like Sierra really wants Maury? No. Do I feel like she sees it as a competition? I do. And she probably wants to beat Jessica. But Jessica is not gonna compete because he's not the guy she really wants. So why would she compete for him? So it's shocking to me that Sierra is so like competitive for, like, competing for him, because it's like, girl, you don't want him either, so like what you competing with Jessica about Maury for? Like, Maury, like, let's be serious. Outside of this process, Sierra would never look at Maury, not once. Neither would Jessica. So I'm shocked. With Chris, I guess he's gonna be focusing more on Aries, but I just don't see Chris staying there any longer. So I feel like he's gonna be the next one to be sent home. Now the next set of eliminations, I don't know how it's gonna work. I don't know if it's gonna be, that's when they choose like between two or what. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's this episode or the following episode, where they have to choose between two of their connections and one has to automatically go home. It stops being about voting and it starts being about, okay, we're not feeling this connection, and they start leaving if it's not a genuine thing. So I don't know if that's what's gonna happen next episode. Either way it goes, let me cut this short, and let me know what you guys think about this episode. Tell me what you think about the clips for next episode. Like, subscribe, and see you guys next time. Bye.